fed up with the schemes and the lies of the enemy against my children. Now, when God speaks, how many knows in the Bible when it says verily, verily, they didn't put that word in there to fill space twice. God is speaking something very serious to say, hey, listen up, pay attention. The Lord said, I am fed up with the schemes and the lies of the enemy against my children. Now, this is what the Lord said to me, and I may get into this. We'll just see how far the Spirit leads me to go with this before I get into this message, but I kind of wanted to just throw this out to you. The Lord began to speak to me, and this is what He said to me. He said, as I said, I'm fed up with the schemes and lies of the enemy against my children. And basically, what do we say? Yes, Lord, okay, Lord, right? But God said this to me. He said, there is something working in this area, and I want you to deal with it. Now, I want to stop right here for just a moment. Because I know people that go looking for devils. And you don't got to go looking for the devil. He'll find you, I promise. I know people that will go out and have an agenda to find the devil. But do you understand something? Jesus never went looking for the devil. He just dealt with him when he showed up.
That's good.
Because he always showed up when Jesus was around. He would manifest himself through somebody throwing himself in the fire or somebody mocking and blaspheming or whatever the case may be. And Jesus always dealt with it. So he didn't go looking for trouble, but he was equipped when trouble came. How many knows God equips? That God doesn't call the equipped, He equips the called. So you have a calling on your life, and it's up to the Lord to equip you, and He does that through the trials we walk through now. Wow, thank you, Lord. Okay. Now let me tell you something else. In talking about equipping, the trials you walk through are preparing you, strengthening you, and building you up for what God has for you to do. Amen. We'll see where we go. I hear you, Holy Spirit. Look at this with David. David is standing before Saul, and he says to him, I'll deal with that giant, this uncircumcised Philistine. In other words, this out of covenant. I see this. How you doing? Good to see you too, Tina. Let me see you guys back there. I'm scanning the crowd here. It's good to see all of you. But I see some faces I ain't seen for a while. Anyways, he says, I will deal with this uncircumcised Philistine. When he was uncircumcised, he was out of covenant. Now, anything that, and I'm going to talk about covenant a little bit tonight, but anything that's in covenant with God, I can assure you God's going to look after. Those two little girls back there, those are my children. I'm in covenant with them. I'm a really nice guy when somebody messes with my two daughters. Mm-hmm. And then the bulldog, Tim, comes out in me. Because you fight for what God has given you. You fight for what God has entrusted you with. Now, I've used this example before. And so, if a pit bull was to come running across your yard, for example, or a rabid dog, and grab one of your children and bite it and take off running with you, you're not going to say, oh, Jesus, help them. No, you wouldn't do that. You go after that thing, you beat that dog to death, you do whatever you got to do to get that child freed up. But I want to say something tonight. I want to say this in the utmost way I can in love. But yet in the spirit, we allow the enemy to bully us, intimidate us, and beat us around. Mm-hmm. And we're always saying, Lord, move on this. And God's saying, I gave you the power. I gave you the authority. Now, when God spoke this to me the other night, let me back up. So David is standing before the giant. He says, I'll deal with this uncircumcised Philistine. But Saul says, you're just a boy. A label. When God's trying to use a man or woman of God, get ready to be labeled. Of what you can't do. Of what you're not qualified to do. Of who God can't use you to be, because that's just not you. Or, y'all ready for this one? Your past speaks volumes about you. So how could God use you to do that in the future? Let me tell you something. When the devil reminds you of your past, remind him of his future. My mother, who's present tonight to play nanny to my daughters tonight, and God bless her for coming, always taught me this growing up. And she still does it today. When the enemy comes here and starts to torment her, she just gets her Bible out and starts reading scriptures. And then that heaviness starts to lift. And she says, where are you going, devil? I'm still reading. Mm-hmm. See, here's the thing about it. I like it when the scripture says, greater is he that is in you than he that is in, or excuse me, the same self Jesus. I'll get it here in a minute. Help me, Lord. I've got too much going through my spirit tonight. The same Spirit that raised Jesus Christ from the dead dwells in you and I. In other words, we have the same power, we have the same authority that Jesus walked in. He said you would do greater works than these. But the enemy will push us around. Let's be honest, right? And we get into something where it becomes comfortable conflict. I preached a message on this several years ago where it gave me about comfortable conflict. Because we look at it and we say, well, this is really hard to go through, but it's not as bad as they're going through. Or, well, it could be worse, so I'm just going to accept this, when God said, I don't want you to accept anything other than my peace, my presence, and my joy. And if anything is robbing you of God's peace, presence, and joy, He doesn't want it in your life. Saul says, you're just a boy. And David says, listen, when I was taking care of a few sheep on the backside of the desert for my father, a lion came out of the woods, and I slew it, I killed it. A bear came out trying to devour the sheep, and I slew it and I killed it. And watch what he says. And the same God that gave me victory over that lion and that bear is the same God who gave me victory over that Philistine. But here's the thing you have to understand. Do you notice that God didn't just throw David into the pit with the giant? First, He gave him some little trials with a lion and a bear. And I wouldn't call that little. How about you? Confront a lion or a bear? I mean, no. I saw this sign the other day on social media, and it really cracked me up because it says, how do you convert an atheist?
Oh, I saw that.
Did you see it? All right, well, don't act like you didn't see it, because I'm kidding. No, it says how to convert an atheist, and the pilot is outside the plane with a sign that says, I was your pilot. Or skydiving. But David was entrusted with some smaller battles first. And he was victorious in them. And it not only was about God entrusting him, it was about him God building his faith to say, if God gave me victory over this and over this, He can give me victory over that. Come on, somebody. So here's the thing about it. Sometimes, and let me back up, let me say all the time, because the Bible says David couldn't find anybody to encourage him. So as my spiritual father said, he had to pull himself up by his suspenders or his bootstraps and encourage himself and remind himself of his previous victories. There are times when you have to take account. When this thing is in front of you and it looks like it's going to destroy you or defeat you or going to be the death of you spiritually or in your body or your mind or whatever, or your family, you have to take account and say, well, wait a minute. What has God brought me and my family through that He can't bring us through this? And when you begin to take account, it builds your faith up again. Because sometimes we just need to have our faith built up. Somebody says, well, you need more faith. No, you don't. We're all given a measure of faith. You need strengthened faith. You need stronger faith.
That's right.
Amen.